How are we doing there, boys and girls? Good morning. Welcome in. Hope we're all well. I did give a little pre-warning yesterday, and I'll start the stream off today by saying there is a very good chance that there is going to be lots of spreadsheet action in this stream today. It is time to start the Dragonflight cheat sheet. Now that we have seen most of the profession. In fact, we've seen all of the professions now. Let's not mess about. We've seen all of the professions. I've had a little bit of a look at all of them. I still probably later today, maybe after the stream, need to put together a enchanting video. My alpha first impressions. It's not technically alpha anymore, but you know, either way, my first impressions for enchanting. I want to put a little video together talking about herbalism and mining as well, simply because I think I've now got a good indication of what Blizzard are trying to do with gathering, and I have this suspicion that gathering is going to be incredibly lucrative. Not that it usually struggles to make gold at the start of an expansion anyway, but I think the long tail effect of that is going to be dramatic.
Hello there.
Nethermage, welcome in. Good morning to you. To reiterate on your tweet, I know you tweeted me asking about the professions and the acquisition of artisan metal. When you... In theory, yes. In theory, there could be the option that because you gain artisan metal for the first time every time you craft something, it depends how Blizzard do it behind the scenes. If Blizzard consider it like a quest reward, it will have a tag against it. And once that tag is true, meaning that you will have completed it already, you cannot on that same character do it again. So dropping a profession, taking a profession back up again, and, you know, to craft it, getting that first time bonus again, probably won't be a thing. I'm quite sure that'll be a loophole they'll squish very fast. And I'd imagine it won't even be a loophole simply because of the way that they'll code it behind the scenes. They'll code it, I would imagine, very much like a quest completion thing. So gathering is more complicated than just hitting 100. Yeah, this is the thing. The long tail of gathering is going to present itself to be significantly more lucrative for those that dedicate time to it. If you're a flash in the pan, you want to dip in and just what would we call it? Like, if you just want to level to 100, run around for a little bit and gather some stuff, you'll do all right. You'll do absolutely fine. The problem is, though, is come the next patch, when you try and repeat the same thing again, you'll be significantly further behind your average experienced druid. It may be tempting to take a druid over to the beta and have a little bit of a look about how that works, but Exotic Flower, good morning, welcome in, welcome. Seducer, how are we doing this morning? Let's get things loaded, let's get the game up and running. Let's get things on the roll. Now, please don't give me a 40-minute queue to log in today. That's not what I expected. Hang on. You gonna let me in? Was that the right password? Let's hope that was the right password. Do I already have it open? Hang on. Authenticate. Do the authenticate thing. Oh, Jesus. Two-factor authentication everywhere. Approve. Go, gadget, go. We're in. I think. Type your password in chat. We'll validate it for you. Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate the support. Thanks, man. Where would I be without you lot? Talking to myself. That's where I'd be. It's practically what I do anyway most days. Right. Let's get things loaded. Dragonflight beta. Update. It's been patched. Update. What's changed? What have they done to it? These were yesterday's updates. What have they changed? Any more? No. No, still only 12 messages. All right, sure. What did they break? Well, yeah, that's probably a fairer representation. Who broke it? What did they do? Let's just check that there's not anything. No, no. Still it must have just been, hotfix. Cool. Must have just been a hotfix. Right, so yeah, today is going to be the start, at least, the start of, hopefully, the Dragonflight cheat sheet. Now, I think I've already made it somewhere. Let me check. Where's my Google Drive at? No, wrong account. Did I put it in my Dragonflight folder? What's the... Mantheus Dragonflight, what did we call it? Is this the one? The Mantheus Dragonflight gold making cheat sheet. There we go. There we go. Do you think gold making has as much potential in Dragonflight with professions? Relative to legendaries in Shadowlands, not a chance. If you were to compare it against every expansion other than Shadowlands, though, yes, it's got a great opportunity. It's not going to be, like I said, the problem is people's comparison is going to be the tens of millions of gold they were super duper easily able to make with legendaries. But I also need to be cautious when I talk about this, because not actually that many people were able to print money with legendaries. There's probably 10 times as many people who tried, made a little bit of gold, and then, the market fell out from underneath them quite quickly. There's probably not it, I'm aware that I kind of live a little bit in a bubble. Talking about this daily means that I'm surrounded by people that share similar experiences. That doesn't necessarily mean the average player made tens of millions of gold with legendaries. For most players, legendaries were nothing more than a disgusting waste of gold on a borrowed power system that they're never gonna reap the rewards of past Shadowlands, which is a bit sad. But generally speaking, if you play your profession, this is the thing, right? They are casting professions to be one of the 4 pillars of play. You think about how much time and effort people on a weekly basis might put into Mythic Plus, or they might put into raiding, or they might put into rated PvP. People who put similar amounts of time and effort into the crafting professions, leveling up their characters, unlocking the recipes, gathering up as much knowledge as they can for those professions, they will be the ones that come out ahead. Those that put in the effort will make pretty good gold off it, I would imagine. The issue will be for most, though, is that most people will go into Dragonflight with the similar impression of professions as they've always had, being that, you level your profession up to 100, you speak to the trainer to unlock 90% of your patterns, and then you craft a few bits and pieces here and there if you need to. That approach just isn't a thing anymore, or it won't be. So there's a significant perception, and the current perception of professions is going to change pretty heavily, I reckon. I think if I played Shadowlands more than the first 4 to 5 weeks, I'd have been a gazillionaire. If you kept selling flipping rank 4 capes for 100k, then yeah, you probably would have been. Do you like it so far, how the professions are made? I love it. I absolutely love it, because it's tailored towards what I want the professions to be. But this is, I'm almost the wrong person to ask. It's like if you were to ask, Max or Scripe whether they like the new raid. Of course they like the new raid, because it's new content in an avenue of gameplay that they love and enjoy. You're asking me if I like the look of the professions, and of course I like the look of the professions because it's what I love to do in this game. I love to play with the crafting professions, leveling up my characters, making a bunch of stuff, playing the economy, and in turn making a bunch of gold by doing it. The issue is how is the rest of the player base going to take to it? Because it's right up my alley. It's my professions are my jam for sure, but they're not going to be for everybody. And for those that just treat professions as a way to, get some small power gain for their raiding or their mythic plus, may look at it and go, you know what, this is too complicated. I'm not going to bother. So we'll have to see. There's not many ways we can gauge the average player's sort of thought process on this. Although, what I have seen by anybody that's been vocal about it in places like the official forums, for example, let's not forget that it's a lot easier to be negative vocally than it is positive. But there are certainly some concerns starting to show their face with professions. And I think once professions get highlighted in the public beta, professions are here now. You can play with all of the professions now. You can level them all up, and it's a good simulation of what the game will be when it comes out. But when they put the professions like in test mode, so that everybody has pre-built characters, they give you the cheat vendors for all of the materials, and people get to level them. When they're put in front of the masses, let's see how they take it. Let's see how it plays out. We will see. We will see. Right, where am I? What was I doing? And what do I want to be doing? Yeah, I know what I want to be doing. I want to be trying to keep up with... Now, this sounds silly, but I kind of want to be doing my dailies for herbalism and mining. Because they are clearly going in... They've clearly painted two different versions of the gathering setup, and they're trying to see which one it gels with people more. I hope not many people like it, as there's not enough to share, it seems. Getting behind the wall with the profession will create a huge wall, which you'll have to pay to get through. The work order system presents an issue that you may not even easily be able to pay to break through that wall as well. This is the thing, right? Because the economy is not going to act the same as it does today. Why is there no... Of course there's no daily quests. I know why there's no daily quests. The reason there's no daily quests is because it's not reset yet, because I keep forgetting it's on flipping NA times. It's not going to reset for hours yet. Okay. Oh, they've changed it. Mining field notes. Study to increase your Dragon Isles mining knowledge by 2. They've weakened the daily quests. That only gives 2 now, as opposed to 3. Can you explain what you mean by 2 different paths for gathering? Yeah, so the way that they appear to have it set up right now is herbalism is where I kind of feel it probably should be, right? So they let you level it all up to 100 relatively quickly and easily, which gives you a bunch of skill points. Meaning that you and the gathering of the herbs is more difficult to max out. So even though I've got maximum Dragon Isles herbalism right here, when I go out gathering, I'm still reliably only getting rank 1s and rank 2 herbs. Now, in comparison, okay, hang on. Let me just organize my bags a little bit to showcase this in better fashion, and it will make more sense. Please hold. That one goes there. That goes. Where's the other writhe bark gone? Or do we not have any other? Maybe we don't have any other writhe bark. That goes there. No, that goes there. Oh, it's all gone complete. The sort function doesn't work. It screwed everything up. Okay, maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. Yeah, so the approach that they've taken with herbalism is letting you level up really quickly and easily. So you gain 100 skill points from leveling your profession quite quickly without much trouble. But to be able to pick up the herbs in the most efficient fashion, the recipe difficulty of picking up Hockenbloom is 240. So you can see I'm still only halfway to doing that, meaning that I'm only getting rank 1, rank 2 Hockenbloom most of the time. I have some rank 3 Hockenbloom, but you tend to get rank 3s only when you tap into a bonus node. So like a Decayed, a Frigid, a Lush, a Titan Touched, or a Windswept version of it. And when you use the Overload ability. So the way that they're doing this is so that you'll slowly have to grind up. It is slightly different to how they've done mining, whereas mining, they've made it so it's much, much harder for you to actually level up the primary skill to 100. The only things that are giving me skill points at this point is overloading special nodes. I think mining is a little bit busted. Mining feels a little bit broken compared to herbalism, but the only time I gain skill points is by overloading special nodes. So I'm not able to quickly access as many skill points as I am with herbalism. But all that said, if you look at what you need to... It's changed literally overnight. Okay, maybe that's why it updated. It's changed. So maybe actually I'm going to go out today and it's going to be different. I was about to say that the amount of skill you need to pick up the primary ores is much less, but it's not. They've changed it. Okay, so yeah, screw all of this. The likelihood is now, okay. Right, well, this is why I've kept these professions and why I hadn't done a video on it yet, because I felt it was still very early days. Now we need 260 skill to max out Tiravite. It was 140 yesterday for reference. 260 for a seam, 260, 260. Is it 260 for everything? Yeah, it's 260 to max out any of those. What about the Draconium? Draconium deposit is 270. That makes more sense because it's a rarer thing. It's going to need more skill to max it out. They're all 270. Okay. Can't foresee clicking overload and the node disappearing in front of you. Oh, can foresee clicking overload and the node disappearing in front of you being very annoying. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I probably need to... This is why I'm trying to keep up with dailies and stuff. I probably need to go out and do some mining and stuff. That probably means I would not be overly surprised now then. If I go out and do some herbalism and mining, I'll get from 53 to 100 relatively rapidly. Let's... okay, sure. Good old under the carpet. They've changed the name of these as well to Dusty Herbalist Notes. So we had Dusty Herbalist Notes that give you 1 knowledge. There was, what was the daily quest going to give me? The daily quest was going to give me something called slightly different. The daily quest was going to give me just a regular mining field note, which increases your knowledge by 2. Okay, They're making changes behind the scenes. They're making changes behind the scenes without any form of patch notes or documentation. I'm not quite sure why I'm surprised, but I really need to sort my bags out. To put it simply, I need more inventory space. Change logs would be so good. I can't believe, like, during a development cycle, we don't get change. It blows my mind that we don't get change logs. Because how are you meant to test things when you don't know what's been changed? That's just a fundamental, for me, that's a fundamental of, testing. How do I know what to test when I don't know what you've changed? It's a big ass game. Am I meant to just go into it blind? And that just leans very heavily on my long-time impression that they just use alpha and beta for marketing purposes. It's free marketing. They get people like me to talk about it all day. And hey presto, you know how much it would pay? You know how much a company would have to pay somebody to talk about their product all day under normal circumstances? Astronomical quantities of money. And yet Muggins here is doing it for free. Right, well let's go gather some stuff then. Let's go see what happens when where's the Tiravite node? Okay, Tiravite is still grey on the tooltip, at least for skill points. What about a rich Tiravite node? You're still grey. Got a piece of Titan ore from it though. Maybe they didn't implement all the changes yet. That's kind of not the point. Like this is why change logs are a thing. Change logs are to allow you to track the process of development and to give you an indication to what they have changed yet and what may still be, in the works to be changed. Patch notes are there for, when something is, finalized. But Blizzard use patch notes in a fashion to say, right, this is what we've changed this week. It's not quite how you'd, it's not quite what you do. There's these things all over the place. One there, one there. Scout packs all over the shop. We need more female coders. Bag space would be unlimited. Everybody gets a Mary Poppins bag. Mary Poppins bag for all. We'd also probably have to carry a lot more stuff than we already do. You think we if you're going to go the sexist comment approach, I'm going to follow. You think we have a bunch of trash in our bags right now? Woo! Not even close. Double Titan ore. Winning. I need to find some draconium nodes. Where on my map have I found draconium previously? I don't even know what the icon is for draconium. That's probably not going to help me. The Tiravite icon looks scarily close. Oh, that's a draconium icon. So the little red one. Okay, I've not found that many places so far. Not out here anyway. Or we just need German coders. It'd be far more efficient. Okay, are we playing a game of stereotypes today, are we? Are we trying to get me cancelled? I mean, I'll go for it. It's all fun and games. Tiravite. Or some Belgian coders. I heard they're great people who are amazing at their jobs. Hashtag selfless promo. Yeah, there's a draconium around here somewhere. There it is. Ow! Furry! Land on the rock. There we go. Right, no, draconium deposit is still grey. So this isn't going to give me skill points. And it's still only giving me rank 1 quality. Okay. Oh, there's a hardened Tyrivite deposit. Still doesn't appear then that they've changed the skill up ratio. But it does appear they've changed the difficulty of it. Where did it go? I swear I saw... Maybe I didn't. There's a draconium one as well. Up here, look. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Momentum is lacking. I need to get up there. You definitely saw a hardened. It's probably a phasing thing. You'd be carrying the sheep that made the thread for the bag, basically. So it's something like that, yeah. That sounded wrong. Hey. At least we don't have like a lumberjack specialism where we'd be, you know, constantly talking about going and getting wood. That was a bit of under the, you know, when we were playing New World, that was the running dad joke. Yeah, off to get me some wood. I think it's funny we can have 100 pieces of plate armor in our bags without us actually slowing us down. To be fair though, so many other RPGs use the weight system for inventory. And I'm going to be honest, I've never been a fan of the whole weight limit inventory thing. And then you have to just get swole to pick up stuff, more stuff. I've never really been a fan of that. I much prefer having inventory item limits. Do you want some regular wood or some hardened wood? Yeah, exactly. Do you want the good stuff? No limits at all, easy peasy. Yeah, for little crafting materials and stuff, I understand how, like, just put them all in the void, you know? They all automatically go into the void. Like we have a currency tab for, you know, apparently I'm carrying 36,000 pieces of cosmic flux. Apparently I'm carrying 19,000 Dragon Isle supplies with me. Apparently I have 38,000 soul ash on me. Nearly 70,000 anima on me. If, you know, if this is possible, why can't materials do the same? You know? They're not actually currencies, are they? But this is just gaming. Right, so okay, that was me trying to assess whether they've actually made lots of changes or just some, and it appears they've done only some. Weirdly being the some changes that they have made put it in line from a skill perspective, similar but still not identical to herbalism. You need 240 skill to be able to pick up herbs at their most efficient, whereas you need 260 to pick up ore. Maybe that's just, I don't know, maybe that's, I don't know, whatever. That is, though, for sure going to make mining remarkably challenging until they properly fix it. You stole the anima, shame on you. It was me. It was me. Okay. I wasn't. My plans for today wasn't actually to dive too deep into all of this. I got distracted. My plans was very much to start tracking recipes and planning the fundamentals of the cheat sheet, as I could just run around and do some world quests and level up some factions a little bit more. But I'm keen to be ahead of the curve for when the profession testing week lands. I don't want to be making the fundamentals of a spreadsheet when we may only have 7 days to like properly test professions. Unless, of course, there's something really juicy world quest wise, which there isn't. Right. Okay. Where's the flight master? Here's the flight master. Get back to Valdraken for now. So we need this tab and we need this sheet. Apologies for everybody who's now blind. Can I adjust the theme of this sheet? Font. Oh, yeah, this is Google Sheets. This is annoying. In the theme, you can only select within fonts that they seem to make sense. Okay. Text, we want text to be white. We want the chart background color to be that one. Done. What? Why didn't that do a thing? Why didn't that do a thing? Oh, chart background, not sheet background. Oh. Okay, well, back to normal then. Screw you, themes. Right, then I guess we go Control A and we change it all to this. We change it all to this. And we change it all to this. Boom. By default. Let's take some influence from over here. Because, you know, branding's a thing. Why does it put it there? Hello? What's going on? Oh, because that's many merged cells. That's really dumb. Why did I do that? That's really dumb. Big day. Big day. It's not a very catchy title. It's not a very catchy title. Who, I think it was Wu who came up with a funny name for it. I can't remember what it was. Dragonflight. Trying to remember what it was. Oh, so important though. The Dragonflight indicative crafting knowledge base. Indicative was something else. You used a better word. I can't remember what it was. There was a better I. But yes, it was something like that. Informational, maybe. Yeah. The Dragonflight Informational Crafting Knowledge Base. Also known as Dick. Grab your dick today and get making gold. So yeah, something like that. Then make sure it's easy to use. Never causes anybody ever problem. No problems ever. Otherwise, people will complain it's too hard. Hey, budumch. Right, we'll leave it at this for now. We'll leave it at this for now. Right, rename. Main. New sheet. Now I want one of the first things I actually want to do. I should have just duplicated the sheet, shouldn't I? That would have been far easier. One thing I want to do is actually put together a list of all of the profession's recipes, and the main reason for doing this is to be able to start tracking where they come from. Simply so that you can then quickly and easily say, right, I'm a jewel crafter, I'm a blacksmith. Where do I get my recipes from? What do I need to do to get them? And you can sort of plan out that profession's, path of action. Plus, that will allow me to quite quickly and easily reference back to this as and when changes are made to the profession as well. So we probably want to break it down. I need to also remember that I tend to leave, let's get all of this in place. We just take that as a chunk. Oh no, there's a problem. There's a problem. Me title's too big. Me title's too long. I got too long problems. See, if we'd called it Dick now, I could have said my dick's too long. Hey. All right, we'll keep the crude jokes to a minimum today, I swear. Okay, I'm going to have to import the logo separately. It's Friday, it's all right. That's it, it's Friday. So we can have text in here about what the sheet itself does. The title can go up here. The logo can go here this time. Make it look similar, but not, make it look similar, but not exactly the same. Right, so we need to pick up some professions. Right, I'm going to be incredibly selfish with this, and I'm going to pick the professions that I deal with most. Because, yeah, I'd rather make sure that it's at least up and running for how I play the game. So leatherworking. Let's go investigate leatherworking. Where's the leatherworking trainer? He's down here. One of these is leatherworking. Where have you gone? Skinning trainer. Leatherworking trainer. There we go. That's what I want. This is the sheet I want. Right, so this is actually a good opportunity for me to sanity check whether this is, all in place. And has anything changed? Because since I first looked at this, I imagine lots has changed. Because like I said, we don't tend to really get much in terms of change logs or patch notes for all of this sort of stuff. Finished prototype Explorer's barding requires the Leatherworker's tool bench. Oh lord. What's going to make the make this actually significantly more challenging is that you're not given any indication to here if you don't know something where you get it from, like you used to be. Material values have definitely gone up. Yeah, I mean, look, expert skinner's cap. If you for you skinners out there, if you want yourselves a properly good accessory, 225 artisan's metal. That's a sizable amount, you know. Do you have any idea what markets you'll be most active in Dragonflight? I will be most active in jewel crafting and leatherworking. But that's because they're the two professions that are on my main. So anything that is conducive of those two professions, I'm going to be all over like a rash. But that's not to say that I won't be dipping into other stuff. I want to make sure that my characters who deal with gear, with armor, weapons, this sort of stuff, are all being kept up to speed. That, I feel, is where the real money is. I'm probably not going to have much dealings with commodity items. For one very simple reason, that commodities are going to be the most competitive by a country mile. And with them being region-wide as well, it's probably going to drastically limit the gold potential from those. It might not. If you stay ahead of the curve, you might, make out like a bandit. Because it's risk reward, right? Because with the commodities, if you can stay ahead of the pack, you're not just supplying your realm, you're supplying literally everybody. So there might be very small windows of opportunity with commodities for you to just print money, like literally print money. You imagine you're the first person to be able to reliably craft top tier, like tier 3 quality flasks. If you're one of the first handful of people to be able to make those, you will literally be selling them faster than you can craft them. There will be windows of opportunities with commodities to do just disgusting things. But I would much prefer to have reliably profitable, consistent sales. Because that will allow me to play a couple of different professions more so. If you want to attack the commodity markets, if you want to go alchemy and you want to go enchanting, you best have them both, as main professions, because you're going to need to devote a lot of time and attention to those to stay ahead of the pack. Commodities in Dragonflight is kind of like Darkmoon decks in Shadowlands. Maybe I need to have a little bit of a look at Inscription again to assess what's going on with that. Darkmoon cards were initially suggested that they would be world drop items. Yeah, I haven't seen any of them drop in the world. The only place I've found Darkmoon cards is randomly by fishing, which is a real, weird scenario that you can fish up Darkmoon cards, but you can't seemingly get them from anywhere else. But then again, I've only tested world content. I've tested leveling, I've tested questing, I've tested world quests, I've tested the reputation side of things. What I haven't tested is dungeons. Are Darkmoon cards going to drop from dungeon bosses? Are they going to drop from trash in dungeons? Are they going to drop from trash in the raids? We don't know. So yeah, I'm not too sure. It is the easy answer to this is I'm not too sure. I'm wondering if maybe I need to break the spreadsheet down into their individual professions. That would make a lot of sense. Then you can have simply a list of every recipe that profession has access to make. With that, you can have details about acquisition. Yeah, I need to work out how we do this. Where's me logo? Can I not copy this? I need to import me logo, I think. File, insert picture, image, insert image over cells. No, not that one. No, we're not using cameras. Upload image. Oh, cock. Now I need to find my... it should be in that folder. 500 by 500 2.0. I think it's that one. I think it's that one. Ugh, that's a really gross copy of it, but it'll do. Something like that. Right. Will you share the Google Doc? Let me make it first. Let me make it first. My Shadowlands cheat sheet was freely available to everybody. It was freely available to absolutely everybody. Yet I want to try and do some slightly more fancy things with it this time around. And the reality of the fact is it takes me a disgusting amount of time to work on this. So I'm tempted to put it as a Patreon tier in Shadowlands, but I've not decided yet. Is the honest answer. I've not decided yet. It depends on how much time it takes me to develop it, and whether I want to, and whether I want, because if I do some fancy things like attach API integration and stuff like that to it, I might need to in some way restrict exactly how many people have. I don't know. I have not decided. Let me make it first. I'll not like Patreon. Like I said, I've not decided. We'll see. If it takes me 10 hours to do it, do you know Noggy? I'm very aware of Noggy. He did. But that situation is definitely not the same. It's definitely not the same. Not everybody is entitled to have everything for free. The problem is he had something that was free, and he then tried to put it behind a paywall. So, right, let's. I think I'm going to probably make these as profession specific sheets. So, let's duplicate that. Let's start off with just leatherworking. Let's say. Right, let's first import some patterns. I think the best idea is to think of stuff like this as marketing for your channel. I'm sure you would. Right, let's do a pattern list. Let's go with, how do I want to structure this? Let's go. What do I want to actually track? I want to track a few things. Obviously, we want the pattern name. What else is going to be crucial to us? We're going to want the name of the pattern. We're going to want probably, where'd you get it? That's so whether it comes from a trainer, whether it comes from a trainer, whether it comes from a reputation. Is there gonna be much we're gonna need to? Yeah, source. Source of the pattern is going to be a good one. I'm just wondering if I should make it so that I only, because I don't want it to be an information overload. It needs to probably just simply be I guess I need to start with everything. Starting with everything is probably a smart approach. Starting with everything and then filtering out stuff that's not really needed to be in the sheet. So let's start putting in some patterns here. You can also make a free one and another one that will match a Patreon tier. Not that it's the same info, but it's in the same category. Look, boys and girls. Look, boys and girls. I've not even made it yet. Chill out. Jesus. I'm not, you know, I've quite clearly stated that I've not decided what I'm doing with it yet because, I've not even made it. Relax. Relax. Is there going to be a quick way for me to get all of these in the sheet rather than typing them all out? There probably isn't, is there? Source is going to be a good one. Actually, before we have source, we're probably going to want category. Just so it, we can say, right, that's leather. Leather armor. Streamer needs to put ads in Google Docs. Oh, Lord. What have I started? What have I started? I merely stated that I might make it a Patreon tier reward. You lot have gone off the deep end. All right. Flaring cowl. Oh, they've changed the name of these, actually. They weren't called Lifebound before. Oh, they've also given a name to the PvP gear. Is the Hidden Sentinel stuff the PvP gear? I think it is. Oh, it is. This has actually got a name now. This has actually been named. This was all placeholder naming last time I looked at this. Ah, very fancy. I like. Lifebound binding, lifebound. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Binding, lifebound belt. I'm deliberately trying to make it so that it somewhat follows the in-game thing. Boots. Lifebound cap. Life. Chest piece. You could put leather armor under name and make it yellow like Blizzard has it. Yeah, I could try and make it look somewhat similar. That would be probably a smart move. Considering how many times the old one was downloaded, had it had ads, that might have made you some real money. It might have done. I think it was. I haven't checked how many times it had been downloaded previously, but a lot. Smells like a 24-hour spreadsheet stream. Well, I'm kind of winging it at the moment. I haven't quite decided whether this will end up being the format that I take, but you got to start somewhere. If you do, if you just procrastinate your entire life, you'll, you got to get going. You got to get going. Lifebound gloves, and like I said, the end result of this will probably end up being completely different. All spirits wrist wraps. Oops, no. And I would like to probably have all of these be a link to, linked to the item, or if I can work out some fancy way to have tooltip, like basic tooltips show up over hover, would be, really quite nice. I don't know how easy that's to integrate into a Google Doc, though. I'm sure it's possible. It's just a little bit of code that runs behind the scenes. Subathon spreadsheet stream, let's go. Oh, Lord. What a ridiculous name. String of spiritual knickknacks. What even is that? String of spiritual knickknacks. This is a belt, a leather belt. Sure. Hey, see, now we can start to see a little bit more how they're going to differentiate the end game gear, right? So your lifebound set, if you're a leather wearer, you in theory, given enough resources or enough gold or enough whatever, you could in theory, there's no limitations on how many pieces of this set you could equip. So there's a belt, a binding, boots, cap, chest piece, gloves, shoulder pads, trousers. You could equip the entire set, all at item level 391, no problems whatsoever. This could then in turn continuously be upgraded. You can infuse it with power and so on and so on. Yet when you look at like actually named pieces of endgame gear. This is still item level 391, but it's a named piece of gear, which is what they're going to categorize as a special piece of gear. They've given it the tag now embellished. It was what was the name? What was the name they were using previously? I can't remember. But they're now calling it embellished gear, of which you can only equip 2 pieces. You can only have 2 pieces of embellished gear equipped at any one point. Now, these are the pieces that often will have like set bonuses attached to them, or they might have, you know, on equip effects like such. But that's quite good. That still means you can kit yourself out in a full set of reasonable gear. You can upgrade it over time, and then you can, you know, pick and choose which of the speciality pieces are to your liking. Does that? I wonder if that's going to extend to things like Dark Moon cards. I wonder what they consider a Dark Moon card. Is the Dark Moon card, is a regular Dark Moon trinket going to be just a regular piece of gear? But if you have the special Dark Moon trinket, the box of something or other, then maybe that's then maybe that would be an embellished piece of gear. I don't know. That's quite cool. I like that. PvP gear though is obviously nothing to worry about.
Hello there.
How we doing, Jack? Welcome in. Good morning, good morning. You don't want to answer proves my point. And Wowhead many times. Dude, what are you talking about? Relax. You're moving the goalpost with that argument, which makes it consistently impossible to have a discussion about it. You lot. Oh dear. So I like that though. I like the fact that we can, in theory, ask crafters and ask people that tend not to engage too much in like the top what I call the instanced content. So your raiding, your mythic plus, or your rated PvP. There's still a gearing upgrade path for you through crafting, which is quite nice. You're going to start at 391, which is, if I remember correctly, slightly sub normal mode rating. I think normal mode was what, 398, I think. I can't quite remember. They might be tweaking it and changing it anyway. But you'll be making slightly better than LFR, slightly worse than normal mode gear by default, but you can equip an entire set of it, and then you can slowly but surely have it recrafted and qualityized, because let's not forget, this is on the premise of you crafting a quality 1 piece of gear. That would probably mean you can take it all the way to 401 with just quality alone. Then if you add on optional reagents such as the primal infusion, the primal infusion will bump its item level a whole bunch as well. They say you can't compare Wowhead and a Google Doc. My point is Wowhead is not popular if it's behind a paywall, but we'll see what streamer thinks is correct. My guess is not behind a paywall. When I need a marketing manager, I'll hit you up, but thanks for your opinion. I love to see for once the chat has gone for Wild Chase of a Spectral Squirrel, but I'm still working hard. Today's coffee. But yeah, you think this is coffee? Yeah. When it's spreadsheet day, that's it's not coffee, it's pure caffeine. Pure liquidated caffeine. If I could get it on a drip, just plug it straight in. Boom. Off to the races. Off to the races. I'm going to end up spending far more time, I reckon, actually assessing the professions again, because they seem to have changed quite dramatically since I last looked at them. Fang Adornments provides the following property: physical attacks sometimes strike again for extra damage. Also adds the okay. Yeah, see, here we go. This is where this embellished to equip limit comes into play. soon as you start to tweak and adjust the gear in any way, shape, or form, it pushes it into the category of embellished. So if you slap an optional reagent on it, think in relation to Shadowlands, where we have the progenitor enhancements, where, you know, at the moment everybody's just putting speed bonus on all of the 262 gear, because, you know, it just makes it that little bit more attractive. But if you were to do that in Shadowlands, you would also not only be adding the speed bonus, you'd be adding a unique equip effect to it at the same time. So it's this will be quite cool. This will mean that this gives a lot more variety to work orders. I think this is the key element from this. There'll be a lot more variety of work orders, I reckon, because some people will choose, right, well, maybe I want the special effect bonus to go on this bit of gear, right? I'm going to put in a work order for that piece of gear with that work order. It's going to be, you know, by its name, custom crafted. Custom crafted could be quite cool. I just got my coffee for the shop that's next to the local Apple store. Got to admire the iPhone 14 queue. Oh, is that thing out now? Yeah, it probably is, isn't it? I saw them talk about that the other day. Why put liquid caffeine in your veins when you can do as in the Matrix and just plug it straight into your brain? That would be I'd be on board for that. Yeah, sign me up. Sign me up. The only slight downside, there is obviously the flip side of this, that if the use of any optional reagent gives it this 2 equip limit, you can safely say then it heavily limits the desire of the optional reagents in the first place. Whereas before, crafting and selling the optional reagents might have been big business, going forward it may not be quite so much. Damn, look at the numbers for this. They have tweaked the numbers on this a lot. Look, 50 resilient leather to make a single reinforced armor kit. 50 leather, 60 leather, and 60 scales. They've jacked up these numbers. They're obviously expecting skinners to go burr. My lord. What does your regular leveling gear take? 30 leather, 2 rock fang leather. This is what people have been complaining about. For those trying to be sort of self-sufficient with the profession when leveling it up, obviously it makes a lot of sense to take leatherworking and skinning at the same time. If you're taking leatherworking and skinning at the same time, sure, you can start leveling and probably get resilient leather quite quickly and easily. But rock fang leather being a special reagent that may only drop from certain mobs, you may not easily have access to that whilst you're leveling up. Salamander, Salamantha scales, for example, falls into the same category. Cacophonous thunder scale. And then that, I believe, if I remember right, blood-soaked hide is the upgraded version of the resilient leather. Oh, I can't remember. They've changed some of these names, I reckon. I need to go back to basics and look at material names, don't I? Fire-infused hide. Oh, my lord, I can't... sure. I tell you what, there's going to be a market just for crafting these intermediates, you know. Taking a decay and an earth and illustrious scales to make a drygate scales. Putrid recipe requires an altar infused with powerful decay magic, rumored to be deep in Brackenhide Hollow. Oh! Oh, okay. Oh, no. Is this going to be... Please... okay, Brackenhide... okay. Oh dear. Requires certain tool benches to make, and in certain instances is going to require you to find some sort of tool bench within a dungeon. Okay. I mean, it's used sparingly like this. I don't mind it. I'm a big advocate for getting rid of these workbenches. I don't. This is just an unnecessary restriction, in my opinion. We talked about this a lot yesterday, so I'm not going to repeat myself in too much detail. I don't mind speciality pieces of gear needing to be crafted at very specific locations in the world. Having them deep in a dungeon, though, is slightly frustrating. It's just but then again, it's like, you know, you weigh it up, right? It's a balancing act. These are still considered crafting components, which means they'll be thrown up on the auction house. You can, in theory, be self-sufficient and craft them yourself, but it means you got to get your ass into Brackenhide Hollow to a very specific location to do the crafting yourselves. Imagine they told you could only craft Shadowghast ingots within a dungeon somewhere. What do we think that would do to the market value of Shadowghast ingots? Instead of crafting them yourself and being self-sufficient and keeping your profits tight, you might decide that, right, well, I do not really want to be venturing into this dungeon. I'm going to maybe pay a small premium, but buy my materials off the auction house instead, giving some profit to the people that do put in the effort. It's not a terrible idea, but it's one that I think should be used sparingly, and I worry that they're going ham with this. There's a few obviously here that require you to be in Brackenhide Hollow to craft. This will be remarkably frustrating if you're just trying to level up, but is there no outdoor part with, well, deep in Brackenhide Hollow? My suspicion, I guess it's right, I am assuming here, but that sounds very much like it's going to be deep in the dungeon. Do we have a map? Show map. I was wondering if there was going to be something on the map that showcased it. I've not tested any of the dungeons yet, so I don't know. But it's down by the Tuskar's fishing thing. Maybe there's an outdoor equivalent. We'll see. We're going to need flowcharts like the TBC attunement for some of these crafts. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. So what does that then, what are these then used in? So if we're looking at, this could be a weird one. If it, like, what does Stonecrust hide then? What does that go into making? This would then go into making tattered armor kits, which is another consumable. Goes into flame touched gear and a few pieces of lifebound gear. So this is, this is where, see that's odd, right? This means you're probably going to be incentivized to craft up a bunch of this way ahead of time. As and when you go through a dungeon, you'll, make a pit stop and craft up a bunch of this ahead of time. Because if you get a work order, my suspicion is that if you accept a work order, you'll only have like half an hour to fulfill that work order before it, gets put back in the pool for somebody else to have a go at. If you only have half an hour and you want to be self-sufficient and you don't have any of these, you are not going to have time to go all the way to a dungeon, put a group together, get into the dungeon, make them, and even if you are, then you're just like fucking over the other people in your dungeon group, because you've got one goal in mind, which is to get into that dungeon, craft a few intermediates so you can fulfill a work order. It feels really weird. You're going to have to prep ahead of time, or buy them off the auction house. Going into a dungeon to make crafting items, me no likey at all. Yeah, it's one of those things that crafters tend to push back any time that they have to actually move to do anything. Crafters are like mages in a raid, right? You ask a mage to move, and they're like, "You're what now?" No, I'm standing here, and I'm pew pewing. You make me move, we no friends. Druids and rogues for the win, maybe. What, just stealth in? Just sneaky all the way in, solo? Possibly. Yeah. And because these are all bind on pickup, it doesn't matter, obviously, if you're making a set of this gear for yourself, but where it matters is where you're trying to fulfill work orders. Because that's the only way you'll be crafting and selling these, will be to fulfill work orders. So having components then that are restricted to being created only in a dungeon. Yeah, I really hope there's an outer world location to craft these. I don't think hiding them away in a dungeon is a really sensible idea. I think that's one step too far. It's already going to be an annoyance that we have to be at a leatherworker's tool bench to make an item in the first place. This is going to frustrate me no end, I'd imagine. To then also find that, okay, well, I can make the final product over here, but I have to go to the arse end of nowhere to craft these first. And the arse end of nowhere doesn't happen to just be on the map. It happens to be deep within a dungeon as well. That might cause frustration. A lot of frustration. It's called the Altar of Decay in the Brackenhide Hollow by the looks of things. This is another weird one, right? If you accept a work order to craft one of these, you accept the work order in Valdrakken, you might only get half an hour to complete that work order. Within that half an hour, you have to find a group, get into the Brackenhide Hollow, have already acquired all of the materials you need to fulfill that work order, get to the Altar of Decay, craft the item in question to fulfill the work order, then seemingly finish the dungeon, get back to Valdrakken, and complete the work order. What I don't understand, this is why we need to see the work order system in more detail. What I don't understand about work orders is what happens if you get given a 30-minute time limit to craft. Say, for example, you get 30 minutes to craft a work order. You accept the work order. You then have 30 minutes to fulfill that work order. What happens if you actually craft the item but still don't complete the work order within that 30 minutes? Does when you hit craft, is that going to automatically fulfill that work order? We really need to see more about how this system's going to work, but I'm seriously concerned about it. I really struggle to believe that this system is going to be a smooth process. There should also be a penalty if you take it but don't deliver. Yeah. Mages, excuse me, I just dropped my rune of power. I'm not moving anywhere. Yeah, exactly. Mages ain't moving unless you got to really push them. Putting profession items on optional Legion dungeon bosses didn't work. There was just recipes though, weren't they? How many work orders can a character take at one time? We don't know yet. It's concerning that we are so far into what is at least considered the publicly available testing process at this point. Now, I know technically it's only just gone beta, but you'd have at least thought that they'd have had a better solution in place for work orders before beta than what we currently have, which is basically none. This hasn't been implemented on or worked on, seemingly since the very first time it got implemented. This is exactly the same as what it was before. And it worries me that that's because, other than a facelift, it's not going to change all that much. But yeah. It's hard to test because there's nothing to test, you know? Any release prediction? I'm leaning very heavily on the leak that we saw a few weeks ago being quite close to reality. Very end of November release seems to line up quite nicely. What was it, 28th of November or something like that? Feels as if it could be quite close to reality. Troll like Mr. GM did yesterday and say the pre-patch is next week. Sounds like something Mr. GM would do. I'm wondering, actually, how far I can take this, because I don't have any information or any easily accessible information on where any of this comes from. Other than I can very quickly work out what you learn. I guess what you learn via... I can't, and I need to level it to even see the specs. So I can't easily just filter through the specs to work out what you learn through those either. This is going to be tough. Okay, well, I can still, at the very least, keep building on this. Toxic Thorn foot traps. Tusker snow shoes. How many hidden sentinel stuff is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hidden sentinel's belt. Chest piece, gloves. The reality is that most of this probably won't end up staying in here, because if it's something that you learn from a trainer, it doesn't really matter. If it ends up being something that you have to, you know, grind a reputation for or something, then that's kind of a helpful thing to know about. But I'm quite sure that I'll be able to filter most of this actually out from not being needed at all eventually. Trousers. wrist straps, okay. And then resilient. Resilient leather 1, 2, and 3. Resilient leather boots. Oh no, tunic. And resilient leather wrist guards. This is all considered leather armor. Can we actually? We can probably take a little bit of... Which one's the leatherworking trainer? You're the leatherworking trainer. Right. Wow, there's really... I'd forgotten just how little you actually learn from the trainer. You learn practically nothing. Damn, I'd forgot that was a thing. There's a resilient leather tunic here. Do you not even learn... Even the basic leveling gear, you don't even learn that from a trainer. Or is it because I've already learnt it? No. I've not learned any of this. Seems really odd that even the real basic patterns, that they don't teach you those from a trainer. Ah, okay. When you pick up okay. You do learn those as and when you pick up actual Dragon Isles leatherworking. Okay. The tunic and the wrist guards comes initially. The boots come in a minute, right? Is that how it's going to be? Resilient leather boots. Yeah, okay. So you do get all 3 of those from a trainer. That makes sense. That makes a little bit more sense now. They come from a trainer. PvP gear. I wonder where the PvP gear one comes from. Yeah, I've got a real problem that I can't actually do what I want to do. What I want to be doing is trying to track how all of this, the source of all of this, but I can't actually easily do that. Tracking recipe difficulty actually is something that might be a very handy thing to have, because I can then reference that in other places in the spreadsheet as well. Does everything have a recipe difficulty of 300 now? If it's a piece of armor, yep, recipe difficulty 300. That doesn't seem right. Because why would a resilient leather tunic have a recipe difficulty of 300? Yeah, that's clearly not being balanced. It all seems very placeholder. Does everything have a recipe difficulty of 300 in leatherworking? Clearly it does. Okay. Okay. It's still a little bit... There's no quality on drums, actually. Yeah, alright. This is a lot more... There's actually not as much I can do as I was hoping I was going to be able to do, I feel. Annoyingly. Even tracking the materials here is not really beneficial right now. For reference, the reason I'm trying to put the sheet together is because I want to try and simulate something that is not going to be easily achievable in game, right? So when you say, for example, you are crafting adamant scale vest, what I want the sheet to be able to do is I want the spreadsheet to know what the recipe difficulty is, for you to simply input what your current skill is. It should then the sheet should then be able to calculate, basically emulate what this does to indicate to you what quality it's going to be crafting at. And what I also want the sheet to be able to do is understand what impact the quality difference of materials has. And then if you're able to put in the price of the materials in the first place, so say, for example, you know that tier 1 is this price, tier 2 is this price, and tier 3 is this price. What I want it to be able to do is to suggest to you what the best combination of materials to use is to maximize your profit, right? So it needs to... the variables it needs to understand is the recipe difficulty, your current level of skill, what effect... inspiration, and in fact it doesn't even need to take too much of a... it doesn't need to really take this sort of stuff into consideration. So we do need recipe difficulty. What do they actually... they do just call it recipe difficult. Oh god, now it's all broken. Because it's going to need to track the recipe difficulty. And if you were to... somewhere on the sheet you need to add... what information does it need to know? So materials. So you can have a bunch of materials. The prices of the materials. Now that is information that I hope, fingers crossed, to be able to pull in from an API at some point. You're going to need, along with the materials and the prices, your skill, your current skill, which by that it should be able to then determine, what quality it will be crafted at. And then hopefully we can have a fancy box somehow that magically tells you what the best combination of materials is to maximize your profit. That's the goal. That's the goal. So it's also, what I'm also then going to have the sheet know is the actual recipe details for each one. It's probably going to need to run the calculation of each possible outcome. So on something like adamant scale braces, you're going to have the ability to have 3 different qualities of adamant scales. Rockfang leather, from my understanding, doesn't have quality attached to it. So I'm going to need to work out, okay, tier 1 adamant scales gives you, let's say, no bonus to your skill. Tier 2, what skill bonus does that give? And tier 3, what skill bonus does that give? Oh, this is more complicated than I thought. This is going to be more complicated than I thought. This is also why I was having discussions with the TSM guys, and they're looking to obviously TSMify their crafting system for Dragonflight. And there was lots of discussions about how all of this information is going to be presented on screen. And it's it's not going to be an easy challenge. It's not going to be an easy challenge at all. It's the kind of thing that you would want, your brain would instantly tell you to go do in a spreadsheet and then come back with the answer. But anything you can do in a spreadsheet technically can be done in game as well. And this is where something like TSM should probably, anything that's the angle where I think Trade School Master should go. And if Trade School Master doesn't do it, another add-on developer can step in and do it, because that's ultimately, I reckon, what people are going to want. What I'm going to want when it comes to this is I'm going to want to be able to have some information down, probably under this box, to be honest. This is dead area for the most part. You could utilize this area down here, or even under the here somewhere. In any of this dead space that the default UI gives you, what you want is something that's very simple. You want current cost and current auction value. So you want to know, right, well, if I make exactly what is on screen here, what's it going to cost me? What could I sell it for? And, probably 3, a profit, right? But what I then want is it to dynamically change based on what I do here. So if I then was to slap in quality 2 materials instead, it would obviously adjust the price. If it pushes it into a higher quality by doing that, it will then adjust the... Hang on. Can we Photoshop this? Can we do it? This is a... Can we get a paint on the go? We're going to paint this out. Paint's probably not the best way to do this, but we can... The spectral squirrels are kicking in big time here, boys and girls. Spectral squirrels are kicking in big time. Right, so... In fact, why don't I just edit it on this? So, you want a few things, right? You want... I can't easily edit it in that. You want... You want 3 things here. We're going to make this look neat and... Oh, okay. I've managed to crash paint. I didn't even know that was possible. How have I managed to crash paint? Oh, there we go. No, you got to select it and then change the size. Of course you do. You probably want crafting cost. You probably want crafting cost. You want market value. And you want a simple calculation then of profit. You want that's the 3 bits of information you're going to want. And you're going to want this to change. So this is practically all you need it to look like, right? You take the dead space that is on show from the regular UI, and as and when you change this, you just want these values on screen to change. That's realistically all you want it to do. And the way that this would work in terms of an add-on, I think, is that I don't know how easily this can be tracked, but all you want it to do is to know the market price, which TSM does. This is the advantage that Trade School Master has, that it has all of the data. It's going to know the market price of all of the tier qualities of materials because they'll very quickly all exist on the auction house. So it's going to know the value for those, and anything that it doesn't know, TSM material prices is a thing, right? So it's going to know the price of all the materials, and so it can calculate, right, with whatever combination is currently selected on screen, it can say, right, well, that combination is going to give a crafting cost of this. From that, it should also then be able to see from this bar here what the expected quality result would be. Now, if the expected quality is tier 1, then it looks up, then it's going to have the market price of a tier 1 pair of adamant scale braces and can populate this field here. And then it's a simple calculation. And what it will allow people to do is go, you know what happens? It doesn't need to get the add-on doesn't need to give you the answer. All it needs to do is allow you to very quickly and easily say, right, well, what happens if I use quality 2 adamant scales? It's going to bump up the price, presumably. Is it going to make any effect to the quality? And is it going to make any effect to the profit? I think it's actually really quite simple. Now, from a user experience perspective, it's simple. But what's happening behind the scenes there needs to be a bunch of data on everything behind the scenes for it to be able to do this effectively. But what I kind of want my cheat sheet to do is simulate this, but in a spreadsheet. So as long as the spreadsheet can have access to both the material prices and the current listed prices for the different qualities of items that it can create. Now, I know that's going to be, if you've got 3 inputs and, 3 outputs, that's a lot of different possibilities. It's going to have to calculate all of those, but guess what? That's what spreadsheets are good at. Now, the spreadsheet could, in theory, and Trade School Master could, in theory, have a suggestion over here. Maximum, with your current setup, maximum profit comes by using these materials. Use these materials for optimum profit. Because it's got to do all the calculations behind the scenes anyway. So it could then just, do a pick the biggest number thing. There's a lot of thinking out loud here, but I'm hoping at least some of it makes sense. Or even just, let's get really clever, even just a button, right? Even just a button. I don't know if this is feasible, but just a big old button. Optimal materials. Just a big old button that you press. Press the big old button. It puts in the optimal materials to craft the item with the most profit. If that is, if it pushes it into... Because that will then also... This works 2 ways, right? Because there's a button in the default UI here that says use best quality reagents. Now, this is almost a bit of a bait because there'll come a point when your personal skill is high enough that using top quality reagents is a terrible idea. You'll just be cutting into your own profits. Because if you can use lower quality materials while still maintaining the same quality of craft, that's probably the better way to do it, because the theory is that lower quality materials will be cheaper, but they may not always be. This is why having it simulated and having, a big button that just says use optimal materials, boom, you press the button and it will then go away and it will, adjust these for you. Now, this is something that they might easily be able to implement in TSM's own crafting UI. It probably won't have the ability to change these for you. It could possibly suggest them, but you would then have to change them. In TSM's UI, it could probably populate the right options, I would guess. But that's probably the approach I would want to take with something like this. And if an add-on isn't going to allow me to do it in game, this is what I want to be able to simulate in the cheat sheet, really. I want people to be able to select a pattern, have it maybe show the different options, or even just show the optimal path. It can do all of the calculations behind the scenes, but just show the optimal way of crafting it. And all it needs, I don't think initially I would want the spreadsheet to even really take into consideration things like inspiration or resourcefulness or anything along those lines. Those should be, considered a bonus. If it happens, cool. Kind of like venture plan, but for professions. That's actually a really good comparison, yeah. In terms of how venture plan would just pick the optimal setup for you to guarantee success. An add-on that does that, but for professions. Yeah, just a simple button, use optimal materials to maximize profit. Whether that means using the higher quality materials or whether it means using lower quality materials, whatever the case may be. Make me my adamant scale braces in the optimal fashion. And if there isn't a button that does it for you automatically, at least these values should be dynamic when you manually change it. So you can then try a few different options and you could try a few yourself and see what happens. Now, obviously, an add-on would be able to do a lot of the maths for this behind the scenes. And in theory, I can't imagine that this isn't achievable in game. You could even have it so that, right, if you it could do this side of things, in an optimal fashion, but still allow you to manually do any of this. So if you put a reagent in here, which would in many cases, when you use an optional reagent, what it does is it increases the recipe difficulty. So then it's going to need to be aware of this and recalculate everything based on this item being in here. So if any item is placed in the reagents or a finishing reagent is used, it would need to take those into consideration, then do all the maths again. So there would still need to be some element of manual input by the player. But if I say, actually, I want a very specific secondary stats on this, doing that will change the recipe difficulty, and I'd want the add-on to take that into consideration as well. That's probably how I'd want it to do. How I'd want it to do it. That can all be simulated in a spreadsheet initially, but it gets quite messy. I mean, it can be, and the messy part of it is having it. I'm going to be honest. This is not a system that actually flows nicely with spreadsheets. No, not that messy. Is inspiration proc always +1 to quality, or can it proc all the way up to 4? No, inspiration is just a flat plus skill bonus. So inspiration, when it procs, you have a 5% chance to be inspired, which will allow you to craft this recipe with a bonus 50 skill. The annoyance is that inspiration currently, the way that the game is set, gives a different bonus depending on what you're doing. If we look at enchanting, we were looking at enchanting yesterday. You can see here you have a 5% chance to be inspired crafting this recipe with 33 bonus skill. Why is it a 33 bonus skill here, yet it's a 50 bonus skill over here? And actually, this has changed once again, literally since yesterday. It was a plus 100 bonus skill yesterday. Or is it actually different? Oh my god, it's different on each craft. Inspiration has a different effect on each craft. Oh my lord, okay. Devotion of haste. If you're making a devotion of haste, inspiration gives you a bonus 100 skill if it procs. A 33 bonus skill if inspiration procs on this pattern. Oh, Lord have mercy. So inspiration is not even... You have a 5% chance to be inspired crafting this recipe with 117 bonus skill. 67 bonus skill. Why is some 117? Okay. Seems to be 1/3 of the recipe difficulty. Is that the logic? If it's got a recipe skill of 200, is that what it is? It just gives you 1/3 of the total difficulty. What's the icon next to the recipe in the UI? The 3 up arrows. This is indicating this is like is a guaranteed skill up. You know how it was orange for a guaranteed skill up, yellow for probably give you a skill up, green for it might do, but it will take a lot of crafts, and grey it just won't. They've changed that system to be just an icon system on the side. So you'll see a green is a low chance of gaining a skill up, and a yellow is a high chance, and then a guaranteed skill up. It's the old skill up system, just, you know, iconized. So a crafting skill of 300. Inspiration will give you a bonus of 100. It does, yeah, that's a good spot, you know. It does seem to be 1/3 of the recipe difficulty. Does that play true with leatherworking as well? Let me put that on the bar so I don't need it open all the time. Recipe difficulty of 300, meaning it should give 100? No. It was a good thought. Good try. Or at least it doesn't seem to affect... It hasn't... Yeah, okay. 50. Okay. Any of these any different? But every single pattern for leatherworking currently seems to have a recipe difficulty of 300 in the first place, which probably... And now you see these ones randomly, recipe difficulty of 300. These are going to give 100 bonus skill. It almost seems to be... the inspiration is going to affect each pattern differently. I wonder what the toggle is. I wonder what the knob behind the scenes is that gets twisted to make this a thing. Okay, that makes the whole thing yet more complicated. This is where an add-on has An add-on would have a significant advantage over this because an add-on should, in theory, be able to either pull the information just straight off the screen or from some sort of recipes API or something. So if any changes are made, they're dynamically caught. Dan, is that Mr. GM? He's doing some skinning. A third for consumables, capped at quality 3. A fifth for crafted gear, capped at quality 5. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I was also kind of half hoping that inspiration would just have, you know, a rule. Because you can program a rule into a spreadsheet nice and easily. If it's custom for every single recipe, that's going to be a nightmare. Because the worst case scenario for me is that the cheat sheet is wrong. That's the worst case scenario for me. The worst case scenario is that the cheat sheet is wrong and it gives the wrong information. It's better to not give any information than it is to give wrong information. That's always been my approach with this. Which is why I've always had a keen eye to try and make sure like all of the material values in my cheat sheet have always been correct. To make sure that the information that's provided is correct and you can trust it to be correct. This becomes a lot more difficult when everything seems to be wackadoodle all over the place. Oh, okay. It's not even a fifth for crafted gear though. That's actually 1/6. 50 out of 300 is 1/6. And I wonder then if inspiration has a different effect. If you, for example, were to infuse it with power, further adding difficulty to the recipe, would that then mean that if inspiration procs, the number of does the bonus skill applied by inspiration come from the recipe's base difficulty, or does it come from its total difficulty? And is that going to be the same everywhere? It's a logistical nightmare. It's this is going to be fun. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay. It's going to be fun, and I'm not entirely sure how I approach the situation. Because I worry I could quite easily burn just hours and hours trying to figure all of this out. And then when it does, at no point until the game actually goes live can I reliably say that, right, this is the snapshot of the game to where my cheat sheet follows. Damn, I wasn't expecting this. I was half expecting a lot more of the answers to present themselves, but they don't. I also need to somehow track, because these numbers seem random as well, look. With current recipe difficulty, reaching a skill of 119 will guarantee quality 2. Why is it 119? Like, where did they get that number from? And is that... See, that's not even the same. You're doing armor kits, look, and you got 179 for quality 2. Is that because it's... Yeah, that'll be because 300 recipe difficulty has to be split up 5 ways instead of 3 ways. I have a strong impression that this is not something that I'm going to easily be able to have implemented before the game goes live. I can have the see if I can get the cheat sheet to the point where the foundation is there, and I just need to, when I get the accurate numbers, go in, plug in some numbers, and then it all just works. That's the solution I'd like to get to. Yeah, I need to put a lot more thought into this. A lot more thought than I expected. A lot more thought than I expected. Damn. Complications have arisen. Maybe I need to brainstorm this a little bit more before I try actually spreadsheeting it. But this will ultimately be quite useful information, whether this ends up being on like the main sheet or not. Because anything that comes from a trainer, you don't need notes on it if it comes from a trainer. And that's in the wrong column now. How hard could it be? The start of every project. Yeah, see, this is it. It's not until you look at it in detail and you're like, okay. This is why I don't envy the people at Blizzard who are, who are creating this system. What I'm in essence trying to, let's not forget, what I'm trying to do is simulate what Blizzard have already done in game, but in a spreadsheet. Blue, thank you very much for the Prime. Appreciate it. Thank you. Key things we are absolutely going to need, without question, is a materials sheet that just, similar to my regular cheat sheet, just has all and every material, which hopefully, now the material list is obviously going to be monstrously larger than what it is for Shadowlands, because you're practically tripling up everything, right? Maximizer with a Prime as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, boys and girls. Thank you. The global material list is probably going to be 3 times the size, because I'm going to need to track the price of all the different qualities of the materials, and where there's 3 different qualities for a single material, it's going to be crucial to know the price difference between them to accurately simulate, best outcomes. Reverse engineering. Yeah, we're this is it. Practically reverse engineering a system that Blizzard hasn't actually finished making yet. But like I said, I'm keen to try. I know full well that we're going to have very limited testing time, because the way that they're doing the development process for Dragonflight is very different to how they've done it before. Previously, alphas and betas, they just said, here's the game, go and do it. Now that they're doing this very structured weekly, right, test this week, what will ultimately happen is they'll go, right, boom, professions, here. They're in a, almost game-ready state now, test them. And you'll have a week, 2 weeks maybe to go through and test absolutely everything. What I don't want is to be during that time spending 50% of my time building the cheat sheet in the first place. I want the core foundation of the cheat sheet to be there, so that when they say, boom, here you go, test, I can use that time to just pick out all of the numbers and deconstruct exactly how the system works, put them into the sheet that's already ready, and hey presto, the whole thing fits into place. It'll be like the last jigsaw piece, That's the approach I want to take with it. So our categories of materials, we're going to have ore, ores and bars. So we already know Tyrivite, ore, I'm going to then have to call them. Do I then? Probably I want to split this out actually, don't I? Quality and then price. Or is that going to make it harder to reference? I actually want the quality to be part of the naming structure here. So then I can just I don't know. Do I need quality? It depends how I'm going to look up the prices of things. If I do VLOOKUPs of things with a okay, I haven't decided. Once again, we'll work it out. Three qualities of draconium ore. That's 4. Something like that. Not too far different to... And then we centralize it all because it looks nicer that way. What's titanicium? I think that's what it is. Titanicium. Could do the name and then add the quality by different numbers of... Oh, so you... yeah, maybe. Something like that, you mean? Yeah. If you already know there is 3 quality to everything, you can do 3 price columns for each quality. There's not 3 quality. There's 3 qualities for a lot of stuff. There is only 1 price for some of it, though. And I'd rather the list be longer than wider. I try to keep it so that it still fits in a single screen. I'd rather it, act like a website rather than you having to scroll. Scrolling to the side always feels weird. I'd much prefer people to scroll down. It's a lot more natural of a thing for people to do. I'd much rather people. This was a bit of a problem with this one. While it still does kind of, if you full screen it, it fits in nicely. But I'm cautious of if you're going to have 3 columns because of quantity. I'd rather it go down further. Than scrolling down is more natural than scrolling across. It's, mouse wheels and that. So I'd rather the list be longer than wider. Because yeah, you could do Q1 price, Q2 price, and so on, but that just makes the whole thing a lot wider. I'd rather it be longer, if that makes sense. I like this structure of having the stars, I wonder if that's enough for people to understand. We'll see. I don't object to that though. That's quite. I think that's quite clean. Let's give it the same. No, whoa. Hang on. That's not what we were doing. That's what we were doing. Is that the same shade of blue? That is the same shade of blue. Yeah. Okay. So what I'll be able to do, hopefully, is this is where not to not to dig up earlier's little bit of drama, but what I might do is have a like a dumb version of the sheet to where somebody would need to come and put the prices in themselves, and they could then choose whatever price they want. The dumb version of the sheet, similar to how my current sheet is for everybody now, where you have to come and put in your prices. The dumb version of the sheet could be out there for people, maybe for free, and then maybe a smart version of the sheet that taps into an API and inputs all of the prices at the press of a button. Could be like, the Patreon tier reward or something like that. I don't know. I've not decided. I've not made it. But that's kind of my thought process anyway. But that's I do like this little star numbering actually. That's quite nice. I like the look of that. Once I've got a full material sheet, that means I then don't have to replicate all of this information on each and every sheet. So this technically wouldn't need to be here. I do need to work out what I want to do regarding skills. How and where am I going to get people to input their own personal skill level? That needs to be very prominent, and that needs to be very near the top, because it's going to be something that people are going to not only have to input once, but they're going to have to change it over time as well. If they're, as and when their skill increases. Similar to the New World sheet. Yeah, that's it. There are going to be a few things that people are going to have to adjust as time goes on. But that's the nature of this new system, right? When you have specs, the specializations are going to permanently be changing your ability to do things. So you're going to have to manually update that as time goes on. And if the cheat sheet becomes smart enough to take into consideration things like inspiration, resourcefulness, whatever the case may be, then you're going to have boxes or space your skill, your inspiration, resourcefulness. Is it 2 N's, 1 N, 2 S's, 1? I don't know. Resourcefulness. I can't spell. Inspiration, resourcefulness, multi-craft. And there's also crafting speed, but that's not something I'd imagine I would pay too much attention to. Unless it might be relevant on things like alchemy and stuff, so. Completely random, but have you been watching Rings of Power? I'm a bit of a hermit when it comes to stuff like that. I don't really watch all that many films or series. If it's not on YouTube or it's not a Twitch stream, I probably don't watch it. These could be as simple as, just put your info in them. Put your skill in. If your skill is, and it should probably be total skill. Because skill comes from many different places. It's going to come from, you see when you hover over it, it's 33 plus 0. This is because my base skill in the profession is 33. I've got 27, and even then, right, my base skill is 33 because I have 27 skill in the profession, plus 6, which I get from here. So that then considers my base skill to be 33. The plus 0 is because, as of currently, I have not put any points into the spec tree. So the game sort of splits it out into two. It considers a base skill and then bonus skill from specializations. So that's probably how I would simulate it in a spreadsheet as well. Or I would just go straight up. I don't care about how or where you get it from. I just need to know what your total skill number is. So you could then have, total skill is 33. From okay, and then the text is going to need to be black, isn't it? So your total skill is 33. Your inspiration is 5. Your 0, 0, 0. Yeah, I'm trying to get my brain around the spreadsheet today. We now have access to enough of the Dragonflight stuff for me to start sort of thinking about this in a little bit of detail. The thought process is going to be slow and steady, and I'm going to be honest, it's probably something I shouldn't be doing on stream because I can't imagine it's overly interesting. But it's, I don't know, some people enjoy watching the working out. I need to grab a drink though. All this brain activities made me thirsty. I'm gonna take a break for 2 minutes. I'm gonna take a break for 2 minutes. I'm gonna go grab a drink, take a quick bathroom break, and we'll be back in 2. Occupy yourselves, boys and girls. Alrighty then, boys and girls. Where are we at? The working out is important, hence why teachers always tell you to show you're working. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. As long as you're talking, it's fine. I tend not to watch streams most of the time anyway. I'm usually listening to them. Yeah, I've had this I've had this explained to me a few times. A lot of people tend to use my stream as like, like a background podcast sort of thing. Okay. Where did I get to? Materials, that's what I was looking at. Mango Loco, solid choice. Literally Biss monster. Best in slot. Without a question. Without doubt. Does that hurt your feelings? No, not at all. I don't care if you're watching or listening or you're just lurking in a, in a tab in the background. If you're gaining something out of it, then I don't know what, I'm not bothered what that something is, but if you're gaining something out of it, hey, you could be jerking off for all I know. I don't care. There's one aspect of one thing you'll probably see from a lot of streamers is it tends to be quite. It's hence why you get like a lot of narcissists and stuff that end up streaming, right? Because they care about themselves aggressively, and more importantly than what they think about themselves is what other people think about them. I don't care. That was one of the funniest Sean Locke comments. This is really off topic. One of the funniest Sean Locke comments on 8 out of 10 cats. Some of you guys will know the clip I'm talking about, but when Rachel Riley has her ski mask on, comedy gold. Comedy gold. Rest in peace, Sean. A little bit awkward now. Yeah, put your dicks away. Alright, bit awkward, not a challenge at all. No challenge. I'll take it. That whole carrot in the box moment. Genuinely one of the funniest 5 minutes on a panel show ever. Carrot in a box. You need to stop saying boys and girls. There are more than 2 genders. There could be people in chat that identify as toasters and take offense. Nah, I'll keep saying boys and girls. If you identify as something different, that's up to you, but... Recipe difficulty is likely to change. The sauce is tough to come by right now. Let's say, for the sake of science, maybe I need to focus on just one item to begin with to work out exactly how I want the sheet to actually look ultimately. I wonder if it's possible in a spreadsheet to... I wonder if I could have it so that all of the recipes are just a drop-down list. If I have all of the data hidden in a hidden sheet, and then I can just have a front-facing UI where you pick a drop-down box, you pick your recipe. When you pick your recipe, the rest of the sheet populates with the information that's relevant to that recipe. Otherwise, the spreadsheet is going to be 10 miles long, and it will all just contain multiples of the same thing, which is anti-spreadsheet etiquette, if that's even a thing. Please don't use hidden sheets. That's usually how errors come up. Or whether they're hidden or not, they on a different sheet. Like I could have just one monstrously large, like recipe sheet, right, where it's got the pattern, it's got the materials that it needs, and then things like recipe difficulty and stuff like that. All of the data can be hidden off on a sheet that nobody looks at, nobody touches. What up, dog? Oh, well, she had arguments with a bed up here earlier and all. Oh. Unless you really want to roll out to Dum Dum New Goblins, in that case, use hidden sheets and lock as many cells as possible. Yeah, I need to lock more sheets off. I'm always super cautious about making the sheets too complicated. You could group rows and collapse for each subgroup. Yeah, that's a possibility. That might be neat and tidy, I suppose. That could work. That could work. Because if I for reference, right, if I rename we could have a leatherworking data sheet, which none of this is needed on a data sheet. Fill that back in. You'd have I would need to. Okay, let me look at one recipe. Let me try and break this down for one recipe. Right, allied heartwarming fur coat. Recipe difficulty is 300. Source is yet to be determined. Notes. Then we could have materials. What do we reckon the maximum number of materials would be for any recipe? 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Have they ever made stuff that needs more than 6 materials? Leatherworking seems to need at least 5. Okay, let's just assume 6. Let's just assume 6. So we could have material 1 and then quantity. Material 2 and quantity. I'm just going to make that a Q, because then that means the column can be nice and skinny. Everybody knows Q stands for quantity, right? If it's a data sheet, we can get rid of all of this jazz, because nobody should be looking at it anyway. Oh no, I've missed one. That's a Q. What? Fuck, what have I done? I broke shit. QTY. Yeah. We're going to need more. We're probably going to need triple digits for some things anyway, aren't we? So that's probably not the worst case scenario. I'm quite sure there's some spreadsheet pros out there right now that are just like cringing. But I don't proclaim to be a spreadsheet pro. I just like them. It's you can like fast cars without being good at driving, you know. So we could then have, okay, notes should probably go at the end, but whatever. This in a data sheet, you're not going to need notes. You're not going to need source either in a data sheet. Let's not mess about. Recipe difficulty, materials and the quantities of the materials. I'm hoping I would hope that quality skill bracketing is universal, but you know for a fact it won't be, because you got your total recipe difficulty, but I probably in a data sheet about the recipes would want where the brackets fall. At what threshold do you need to achieve to reach a quality 2, a quality 3, a quality 4, and a quality 5? So then after that, you would want tier 1 through to tier 5. Just trying to plan ahead of time what the breakpoints in recipe difficulty are. So in this scenario, with our allied heartwarming fur coat thing, 119 is the threshold to make a quality 2. T1 column actually makes no sense whatsoever, because that's the default, but you know what I mean. Because I don't know what they are yet, is the simple answer. My only complaint is doing formatting before knowing what data needs to be presented and styling everything at once. Yeah. So we've got ability for up to 6 materials. We've got the base recipe difficulty, the breakpoints then for the different quality outcomes. I can't imagine there's anything else we're going to need to know from a data perspective about the recipe itself, the core recipe. Meaning then what we can hope to do is on the main sheet, this is all very theoretical at this point. On the main sheet, we should be able to have a drop-down box to where you select the recipe. Select the recipe you're looking to craft. You select the recipe. Maybe? Yeah, maybe. I'm starting to question, though, why would you refer back to a... If you have to select the recipe first, why would you not just fiddle in-game? I'm starting to lose focus on what the sheet is beneficial for, actually, here. Because if the main goal is to... If the main goal is to optimize... I think a bunch of people will just be looking for the vendor flips. I've had a vendor shuffle sheet. My main cheat sheet has a dedicated page just for vendor shuffles, to where anything like the core items that could be vendor shuffled are listed, and dependent on your material prices, it'll highlight which ones are worth paying attention to and which ones are ignoring. Which proved to be one of my more popular sheets, obviously, because it's that time of the year right now where vendor shuffles are a thing. Vendor shuffles are unlikely to be a thing in Dragonflight for some while. Although I said that, and practically day one of Shadowlands, people were doing vendor shuffles, so who knows? Realistically, actually, what I want is I want the recipe, and I want it to, by default, show, based upon your stats and the prices of the materials, I just want it to show the optimal way of crafting that piece of gear. If I go that approach, and the optimal way will be, what is the best combination of materials and at what quality to use to achieve the cheapest crafting cost. That, in theory, is what I actually want it to do. Because it'll all be based upon what is your guaranteed quality, right? Number of crafts per. What do you mean? You've lost me. So actually, your allied heartwarming fur coat is a terrible example, because it's a bind-on pickup thing. You're not going to be mass crafting anyway. Something like the Hidden Sentinel belt, right? Hidden Sentinel belt, this is your PvP gear. What you practically want to know is, based upon whatever the prices of all of the different possible combinations of materials are, what's going to be the cheapest way to craft this. What I need to work out is just how many different variations of, or how many different combinations of ways could there be. This is actually an issue, right? Because it's if there is 3 different... It's 3 cubed, isn't it? So if there's 3 different reagents, each which have 3 different tiers, is that 27 different combinations just for an item that has 3 materials? 3 cubed is 27, right? 3 times 3 is 9, times by 3, 9, yeah, 27. So there's 27 different crafting combinations which you would need to calculate the crafting cost of each one of those to then be able to take the cheapest. Damn. Oh, sugar. Okay. 27 different crafting combinations just for an item that has 3 different reagents. luckily, in this scenario, actually, I don't think these... oh, my Lord, have mercy. Not to mention intermediates. If intermediates have... we're going to need more coffee. We need more than more coffee. This is practically becoming... I wouldn't say unspreadsheetable, but really not. And this is by design, I would like to point out. I'm deliberately trying to break what Blizzard are trying to prevent people from doing. Blizzard don't want crafting costs to be so cut and dry. You know, they want it to be a little bit more fluid, a little bit more, oh, well, it could have cost you this, but it could have cost you that. The blurrier your crafting costs are, the blurrier the listing prices on the auction house are. And the problem we have today is that everybody knows exactly how much everything costs. I think they might have tried to break your spreadsheet. Nah, my spreadsheet is quite renowned, or through Shadowlands at least, it was quite renowned. It was known about, but there is some seriously more complicated over the top ones than mine. Mine was a very basic one. Would recrafts also be a factor? Recrafting is going to be interesting, you know. Recrafting is going to be really interesting because it will heavily limit the amount of times people have to buy an item, you know. Then this is going to mean you'll have a surge of sales at the beginning when everybody gets that core item, and then later on in the patch, sales, or should I say in most cases work orders for the core bit of gear are going to drop off like a rock. Right, because nobody will need a new piece of gear. They will already have the piece of gear. They'll want to have it recrafted and upgraded. So there's going to be this weird, shift in dynamic as well. You know, there'll be huge amounts of work orders until there are enough people to fulfill all of those quality requirements on the work orders. When everybody's got the bit of gear, then if they're like, okay, well, my snowball makers are only quality 1. Maybe I've got a few materials. Maybe I want to get it recrafted. Maybe I want to squeeze out a few more item levels on my snowball makers. And I can say, right, well, I can give it back to a crafter, have it recrafted, but this time I want it recrafted at quality 2 or quality 3 or quality 4 or quality 5. Whereas in the past, not that people replace gear too much, but in the past, somebody would just look in the auction house to find an upgrade, right? That, well, is there a piece of gear that's just better than this one? Whether it be the same name or not. Look how many times some people will have replaced a Shadow Lace cloak, right? You could have had a Shadow Lace cloak at item level 151. Then, when they became available, Shadow Lace cloaks at 168 became available. When you unlocked Venarian, you got your Crafter's Mark II. So somebody, instead of having that original Shadow Lace cloak just be upgraded, would go to the auction house and buy a brand new item level 168 Shadow Lace cloak. And then a new patch comes out, and hey presto, all of a sudden item level 200 stuff becomes available. And then a new patch comes out, and that same Shadow Lace cloak is available at 233 and even 262. There won't be anywhere near as much of that going on. With the likelihood is that people will buy a piece of gear or just get, because having a bit of gear is better than not having a bit of gear, right? Especially when its starting item level is reasonable. And then people will look to, right, okay, in the first week I was able to get my snowball makers and I got it at 391, but now there seems to be some skilled crafters out there that can make these at quality 4, quality 5 even. Let me get it recrafted. Let me give it back to the crafter. Let them do some shenanigans with it. Does recrafting provide skill points? I would presume it does. It's fulfilling a work order technically. It's not any different in that regard. It's definitely one aspect I've not looked into in great detail yet, but it will definitely have a big if it's if it doesn't cost too much. This is going to be the trick, right? As long as it doesn't cost too much, it will be fine. It depends just what the requirements are. It was available to test for a very short period of time on the alpha, but I stupidly went by the assumption that come the beta, the test vendors would still be up, and I didn't realise I was on a time limit to test that. So I kind of need to wait until we can test the professions in detail again to dive into that in more detail. I'm sure there's a few people out there that maybe did some videos or something about it. I'm not sure. I would imagine Soul probably did a video on the recrafting, at least basics of it. In the patch notes, they said about craft vendors on the new realm, maybe the next update. Yeah, where they allow you, they've added a third. I think they've added a third test realm, which is where, yeah, the Valdrakken realm is the test realm where you make pre-made level 70s. Except the social contract, sure. Oh, is every character you make here just by default just straight up level 70? Yeah, see that the instant level 70s here. You can't input your own characters or whatever, but it's on this realm they're going to... On this realm is where they're going to put the cheat vendors. You know what's kind of annoying, though, is they absolutely better put the cheat material vendors as well. Because if you can't copy over your own characters, that's going to be really annoying. Does using high-quality materials increase the recipe's difficulty? No. What does is the use of optional reagents, though. If you take... Let's see if I can showcase this quickly. In fact, it's the opposite, right? Because using higher quality materials adds skill. So you gain a skill bonus by using higher quality materials. And so it's designed to be a way that if you do not have inherently good enough base skill, you can choose to use higher grade materials to alleviate that problem and to make it easier for you to craft higher quality stuffs. Using better quality resilient leather, for example. In fact, can I find a recipe that I actually have the ability to press buttons on? If I use higher quality resilient leather, I will gain a skill bonus. Now, what's difficult to test at the moment, because I don't even have any of this, it's difficult to showcase it, but yes, you gain no skill bonus by using tier 1 materials. You use tier 2 materials, you'll gain some skill bonus. You use tier 3 materials, you'll gain some skill bonus. But for most people, what you'll find is that skill bonus, using higher quality materials, is only beneficial if it pushes your quality up. If it still doesn't push your quality up, there's no point doing it. It's a waste of higher quality materials. The only time you'd use higher quality materials is to improve the quality. But as you can see on this, right now, this doesn't feel very balanced, but it's got a base recipe difficulty of 300. I need to acquire 119 or more skill to guarantee a quality 2. So I can get 119 skill from many places. Just being, you get potentially 100 points from leveling up the profession. Your gear, your tools, your accessories have the chance to give you skill. Using higher quality materials can give you skill. Your specs can give you skill. All of the skill bonuses combined, if you can reach these thresholds, you just create higher quality stuff. This is also going to lead to something quite interesting in the future, being that some crafters will get to the point eventually where they can only make the higher quality stuff. And what will ultimately end up being is your skill, your natural skill, will be so high, you can then tone back your usage of high quality materials because you won't need the skill gain from using these because you'll have enough skill naturally. So you'll be able to make top quality stuff and use the cheapest possible materials. That's like the super end game, which in theory should be achieved quite quickly on the entry level stuff. This doesn't seem balanced in any way, shape or form. But if you look at enchanting, say, the basic enchants, your basic easy to make ones have a much lower recipe difficulty, meaning you only need 100 recipe difficulty in total to max out this. If you have 100 recipe difficulty, you could be using the most basic of materials. It doesn't make a difference. Enchanting, the materials for enchants don't have quality on them. So once again, not a perfect example, but it's what I can do right now. Shouldn't be hard to calculate a gold skill price for each material, then use the lowest of the sums up to the required to make the... Yeah. Yes. This is one of the things, right? This is what I'm trying to be cautious of. That I know full well that the human brain is quite good about it. The human, at least some people's anyway, the human brain is generally quite good at this. I will very quickly, if I'm looking at making devotion of leech, for example. In fact, no, let's use that leatherworking recipe again. If I'm looking at making some resilient leather wrist guards, I can quite quickly look at the skill I already have, and I can go, well, what happens if I use the best quality reagents? Let me just simulate what happens if I use the best quality reagents by clicking this button. And okay, using the best quality reagents, I'm still not going to guarantee myself a quality 2. So you know what? Untick that, use the basic stuff, click craft. Most people, I think, will be quite good at doing that. But where it becomes more benefit, and this is why you would want to start maybe spreadsheeting stuff, is when you've got more of these stats kicking into play, right? You've got more inspiration. Well, if your inspiration chance is high, that's going to give you a bonus, but only when it procs. Your spreadsheet comes into play a lot when you look at things like resourcefulness. Okay, well, if I craft 100 of these potions, for example, my resourcefulness is going to kick in X amount of time. How many materials is that going to save me? And in turn, what is my average crafting cost? This is where the spreadsheet really becomes beneficial, which is why I'm wrestling with ideas right now. I'm wrestling with ideas about how to do it because I'm heavily aware that through some very quick and easy trial and error in game, most of the time you can work out what's optimal just by a couple of button presses anyway. There's no need for a spreadsheet for it, right? I'm trying to find the areas of crafting where there's a really strong need to try and optimize it. Weirdly, actually, I tend to feel that my cheat sheet, I know I've focused on leatherworking to start with, but I tend to feel that a spreadsheet becomes far more powerful for things like enchanting, for things like alchemy, professions that are making consumables. You tend to be making things in bulk. And when you're making things in bulk, then that is where your secondary stat bonuses are going to be more effective. If you're crafting one piece of gear, inspiration doesn't matter at all because it's such a low chance at this point. You're not crafting 20 of these, so it doesn't matter. Inspiration is practically a dead stat when you're making armor. What you'd be better off doing is trying to use some other stats, either just stacking this so high, or when it comes to crafting gear, you probably want something like resourcefulness more than anything else. So you want it to use a percentage less materials when it procs. Inspiration is it's you're not crafting in mass that much. Okay. I'm I think my brain is about fried when it comes to spreadsheets. I think I'm about cooked when it comes to spreadsheets. I've done a lot of, it doesn't feel as if we've actually done much of anything, but I've done enough to satisfy some curiosity. Do we get to choose between inspiration and resourcefulness? Those stats are given to you primarily through the profession tools, and additionally specializations. You get to choose where you put your spec points, and you can choose to spec into having more inspiration, or these nodes will usually give you those secondary stats. How much does it matter the plus skill from race? Racial bonuses have the potential to be quite powerful initially, just depending on how they play. If your racial bonus is added, put it this way: the racial bonuses will matter early, but maybe not matter so much eventually. They may possibly, if you've got like plus 10 jewel crafting or something, plus 10 skill from jewel crafting, that may give you a very, very short window of opportunity to be able to make something at a higher quality than everybody that doesn't have that skill. But it's really fine line, right? Because you're going to have to be on the cutting edge of optimal to begin with for that skill to give you maybe a fraction of a head start on somebody else. The theory is that yes, it could play a part, but I think the reality of it is that it probably won't. How are we doing, Gumdrops? Welcome in. Good morning, sir. So if I'm a little late to the party, do you think we'll need 2 leather workers, one to specialise in mail and the other to specialise in leather? Or will you eventually be able to max out both? You'll eventually be able to max out both, that's true, but initially you are going to have to make some element of choice. Let me put it this way, unless you are comfortably min-maxing 5+ characters, double stacking professions is not sensible. You'd be much better because you'd be much better off going broad than you would super hyper focusing on one profession, I reckon. You need like 6 characters or something to have all of the professions. Until you at least have one copy of all of the professions, it doesn't seem to make much sense to me to start double stacking. Wouldn't the racial bonus mean that for higher difficulty items you might not need to add extra items to hit the thresholds for crafting an item? Maybe, possibly. But the difficulty in that thought is that the top stuff that in theory has the highest difficulty and will in turn have the most demand for highest quality stuff is all bind on pickup, and it's all going to be through fulfilling work orders. So yeah, once again, the window of opportunity on that is like super small. Leatherworking might be an exception with all of the new male alts. Possibly. The way that I can't show you the specs, unfortunately, because I don't have 25 skill points in it, but there are practically 2 different spec trees. One that makes leather, one that makes mail. I mean, you can in turn maybe consider them so different. Drakthir, I mean, it's no secret that I will be focusing incredibly heavily on mail to begin with. I am a hunter main. I need to wear the mail kit myself. Secondly, Drakthirs are a thing, right? So it's no secret I will probably focus on the mail, and then as and when and if I'll dabble in leatherworking as well. I think there's so much complexity to the new professions that the likelihood of you being like 95 percentile optimal with any more than a 2 or 3 or maybe 4 professions is super slim. There's just not enough hours in the day. Because you're going to need, once you've leveled stuff up, right, you are going to need to, at the bare minimum, what your daily activity is going to be maximize the amount of knowledge that I can gain every single day. So right now, that's going to be making sure that at the very least you're doing your crafting work order. Sorry, you're crafting daily, every day, which might end up being something quick and simple. You go and you hand in 3 of these. All right, buy 3 of these, hand in, job done. In that scenario, it might be a little easier to keep things rocking and rolling, but if it's anything like the gathering ones where you've actually got to do something, yeah, I don't know. Not to mention that you're going to need to level those characters. There's a lot to it. This is just one man's opinion, but I'm probably going to laser focus on just a couple of professions. I'm lucky that the couple of the professions that I'm going to laser focus on are ones that I think are going to be quite good. Leatherworking, jewel crafting. They're my big 2. My hunter has leatherworking and jewel crafting and has for a long, long time. So I will do everything in my power to min-max those. And if I have any spare hours left in the day, then I might look at alts. Adding artisan's metal on top of that, you're really looking to focus on a single character's profession. Yeah, this is it. Like, you want to try and min-max not only the amount of knowledge that you can get with a profession, you're going to want to... you're aggressively going to want to, on those profession characters, be working on the reputations as well. Because as we've already experienced, the Dragon Scale Expedition gives you the option to go treasure hunting. And through treasure hunting is where you get yourself a steady supply of primal chaos. There's going to be lots of stuff you're going to want to do on those characters. Sol released a video yesterday mentioning, almost as a bit of a side note, that braces will be locked by engineers. Do you think it might be worth a worthwhile endeavor to focus on that? I already have engineering since I need it for Mythic Plus. Was thinking about working on it for some gold making. Maybe. I haven't looked into it in enough detail. I mean, braces are not totally locked behind engineers. Engineers do make braces, that is true, but they're not the sole holder of bracer crafts. They do, yes, have some fancy braces, but that is assuming that one of your 2 fancy slots of gear you want to take up with braces. I don't know. What item were you talking about earlier with the Altar of Rot? There are some intermediate items, reagents that need certain altars to be, yeah, you need to be crafting them at certain locations. So much playing the game, just give me the gold. Yeah, if only, right? Yesterday you saw that making a new item for the first time gave you some knowledge. Did making the item at a higher rank do the same? I believe, from what I gather, it's a first time craft bonus. I'm in that dungeon at the moment. Yeah, Brackenhide Hollow. Brackenhide Hollow, apparently there's a crafting table or something in there somewhere for you to make some stuff. But for sure you'll need to put in hundreds of hours in the first few weeks. Slacking will hurt your ability to do work orders for many months. Yeah, I tend to feel that in a world where they're trying to laser focus people into specializing, That is the approach that you should take, right? You should choose to specialize. Spending more time and min-maxing your main professions on a character is probably the wisest thing for most people to do. I cannot, in good confidence, suggest to people that it's a good idea to try and, level 4 or 5 characters just to have access to all of the professions. That would be like somebody turning around and saying, yeah, sure, you should raid 23 hours a day to guarantee you have the best mythic gear before anybody else. It's not really all that feasible when you think about it. So, laser focusing on 1 or 2 professions and making sure you're doing everything you possibly can to keep ahead of the game on those professions is the way that Blizzard kind of wants you to focus on professions, right? Laser focusing on 1 or 2 professions will mean that you will keep your nose ahead of the competition when it comes to specializations. You'll be unlocking patterns first. You'll be able to fulfill the higher quality work orders. You'll be able to cherry pick the best work orders. You'll hopefully make a name for yourself on your server. Sure, you may be able to start getting more personal orders sent your way. Lots of benefits to being laser focused on 1 or 2 professions and being the best in those. Is there anything BOE that you can craft in post, or is all the good gear locked behind bind on pickup materials that you must do with craft orders? Harsh reality is that most of the good stuff's bind on pickup and is going to be work order bait. All of the end game gear sets, your basic gear set, all bind on pickup. I'm not a fan of this, I should point out. I'm really not a fan of the fact that everything's bind on pickup. If they're going to have this embellished unique equip 2 on embellished gear, I can kind of understand the embellished gear being bind on pickup. I might be able to give that, a free pass. But having this stuff, your Lifebound set for leather workers, your flame touched set for mail being bind on pickup as well, it's not necessary. Let people craft these with their own materials and let them put them up on the auction house for a price. Alternatively, if somebody doesn't want to pay that price and they have some of their own materials, they can put in a work order and have it, created for them that way. Work orders should be an alternative, not the only option, in my opinion. But to answer your question actually more directly, the basic PvP set is all bind on equip at the moment. Now, obviously it's a PvP set, but there's a very good chance that you craft these nice and early on. They'll probably sell like hotcakes. I don't think these have been balanced yet because item level 283 is tragic. You ding level 7, although it only requires level 61 to make this. Might weirdly, the PvP set, if it stays similar to what it is right now, may end up being your leveling set, right? It might be your reasonable quality leveling set. You ding 70 in about item level 340. But how many of your alts currently are item level 270 plus? Many of them probably are. But if you're leveling a brand new character, you're absolutely certainly not going to have 270 gear when you step into Dragon Isles. The pre-made characters, for reference, the pre-made level 60 characters are given item level 180 gear. So that seems to be what they expect. If you level from 0 to 60, come Dragonflight at least, you'll probably be about item level about 180, which then makes this set of gear at 270 very, very attractive for new characters that haven't done any pre-gearing in a past expansion. This is all bind on equip. You can craft this all day long. You can sell this all day long. But yeah, somewhat frustratingly, most of the good stuff is all bind on pickup. All of it is bind on pickup. The best, yeah, realistically, the best you're crafting to list on the auction house is practically leveling gear at the beginning, which is a bit sad, you know, because it's or commodity or commodity items and such. Everything that's good is bind on pickup. 343 requires level 70. Solid bow, you know, solid bow. If you happen to ding level 70 and haven't had a good weapon drop, that's maybe a good starting point for you. By the time you get that 353, even then you'll get better from a world quest within minutes. It's, yeah. The auction house in terms of gear is going to look really bare. Really bare. Which is my only big concern, right? And this is why I think it's so much more important to keep ahead of the pack. Because when they're putting so much emphasis on work orders, practically, I did some numbers, right? I did this a while ago, and I counted up every recipe for a bunch of different professions, and then worked out how many of those recipes make a bind-on pickup product. And it was like 40% of all new recipes. Over 40% of all new recipes are bind-on pickup, which means they just won't be in the regular auction house. 40% of all of the new recipes can only be traded through the work order system. Puts a lot of emphasis on this work order system being good, which is, yeah, I don't know. Will there be a fix for the scanning of buying materials through TSM on the auction house due to region-wide changes? Hopefully. I'm not a TSM dev, though. I mean, you know, I talk quite frequently with the TSM guys. Gumdrops, at least, was eating his lunch here a minute ago, but obviously they'll do what they can do. A work order server specific? Yes. Or they will be at launch. They do wish their end game goal is to maybe make them region wide, but their end goal is to make everything region wide. So I don't know. But yeah, for leatherworking, for example, the best quality piece of gear you're going to be making en masse to sell is the PvP set. Everything else is bind on pickup. Literally everything. You may... I wonder if you... It's hard to tell without the work order system, but... Can you request... Okay, weirdly, I was just wondering whether you can actually... You seem to be able to request regular bind-on equip material through the work order system as well. So this is the weird scenario, right? Even what you can craft and put on the auction house, you can still, in theory, put a work order in for. Bit worried about the work order system. Why hasn't it been implemented on the beta yet? Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. We've had this very basic iteration of it since like week 3 of the alpha, something like that. And they're putting so much weight on it. The entire crafting system, this complete revamp of the crafting system, is all being precariously balanced on top of this work order system. And I've kind of quite publicly made it aware that I don't have too much confidence in it, because there's some huge drawbacks to the work order system that physically cannot be fixed. Nobody likes waiting for stuff. No, this is why the auction house is so popular. Because it's instant gratification. I can search the auction house, I see an item or a piece of gear that's an upgrade for me, click it, buy. It's in my mailbox within 3 seconds. Putting in a work order and there's two big problems, right, with work orders. You put in a work order, firstly, you have no guarantee that work order is even going to be filled. You don't know if there's a crafter on your server that can even make the thing that you've asked. You've got no idea. So you don't even know if you put in a work order whether it will be fulfilled. And even if you put in a work order, you have no idea how long it's going to take. There's a maximum 48 hours. It's not very good. It's not going to be very user friendly. However they implement it, however good the UI looks and however smooth a process it is, there's always those two big problems. That it's basically the same as using the bid system on the auction house, but it's technically worse than the bid system, because at least when you bid on it, you know that by the time the time runs out, you'll get it, unless somebody buys it. There's not even that guarantee with a work order system. But we'll see. We'll see. We can, until we see it, we don't know. For such a big feature, you'd think work orders would be testable at this point. Well, you'd kind of hope. You'd kind of hope. The only other thing they could do, and I've sort of spoke about this, that, you know, if they realize that they just cannot get the work order system to be as strong of a linchpin in the entire system as they want it to be, they just revert their choice to have all of this stuff be bind on pickup. You know, the basic set, like the Lifebound set here, which is your default, no thrills, but just good stats, 391, good stat balancing. They make the default set that everybody in theory can have a whole set of if they want. They just make this bind on equip. And so that even if the work order system is not as rock solid, at least it can be traded via the regular auction house, albeit for what will end up being probably a sizable amount of gold. It won't be legendary level gold though, not even close. But then maybe the specialist stuff, the fancy schmancy bits and pieces, that can go through the work order system. Maybe somebody would be willing to wait for a fancy piece of custom crafted bit of gear. But this is the concern, right? Who wants to wait an undisclosed amount of time for a piece of gear that is as simple as main stat, stamina, couple of secondary stats? It doesn't do anything special. It's not overly elaborate. Who's going to want to put in a work order for a piece of gear like this if there's no guarantee how long it will take or if they'll even get it? I don't know. It worries me. If it wasn't for the work order system, though, professions look incredible. I can't emphasize it enough. Professions look incredible. There's so much more variety to how you make things. There's so many more actually weighted decisions to be made. You know, as long as they don't flood you with spec points, which they clearly are not doing, as long as they don't flood you with these spec points, it means that every time you get one, it feels worthwhile. They feel like something you should try and chase more of, because they'll give you a level of expertise. You know, active gameplay providing you active benefits, I think it's really cool. And it's something that professions haven't had for years. For years. People will complain about being able to fully gear via buying tokens. That's why there are bind on pickup materials in the first place. Not until people can craft it all, though. Yes, that's true, but there'll be a period in time before that eventuality happens, because all of these recipes, these lifebound, this lifebound set, for example, you don't unlock these by just leveling up leatherworking and going to a trainer. You have to actively choose to spend spec points to work towards unlocking these. So there's a duration of time there. We've seen there is like the elemental storm system, right? These elemental storms, you can farm these from day one, right? You could spend a few hours farming these elemental storms, get a bunch of the dust, take that dust to a vendor and buy yourself a full set of gear. You could do that day one, technically. It's probably going to be one of the very first things that people do when they hit level 70, is get a full set of elemental storm gear, which is, what was it, item level 370 or something? A full set of 370 gear can come from these elemental storms. You can farm 369, yeah, there we go. Similar in quality to like heroic dungeons, right? The alternative is just go farm dungeons. So this is going to be one of the first things people will do. The amount of time it will take before you'll start to see all pieces of a set like this appear on your auction house, I would guess is probably about a week. And even then, if they're bind on equip, right, if they're limited to how many a single crafter can make, because if you make these bind on equip, they, as a crafter, have to provide their own sparks of ingenuity, which we already know are going to be aggressively limited. Primal Chaos, while it is farmable, it's not super easy to farm in huge quantities. You could probably get 40 Primal Chaos an hour, I would imagine, but only if you're like really quite optimal with how you farm it. Unless this ends up coming from dungeons and raids and other stuff. But even if they do make these bind on equip, there's limiting factors to make it so that they won't be so readily available. Now, the flip side of that does mean that when they are available, they'll be expensive. But, you know, gold is in the game for a reason. It's Blizzard's inherent choice to allow you to technically buy gold anyway. Yeah, we don't want another legendary situation on our hands, but if your only alternative is to go through a work order system that's not fleshed out and not as solid as we would need it to be, maybe an alternative is good. Maybe we need an alternative. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see until when we get work orders. Either, boys and girls, I think I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm getting quite hungry. I know it's been a shorter stream, but I spent half the day with my head in a spreadsheet. But I think the professions are starting to come together, though. They're starting to come together quite nicely. The under the radar changes are a bit frustrating. I would love it if Blizzard would document stuff a little bit more, but we will we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see how it all plays out. Dan, Mr. GM, are you streaming yet? Are you streaming today? I guess you're not. I seem to remember yesterday you said you're not, so I'm trying to find somebody to throw you all to. Who's online right now? There's never anybody online today. Got to take people to the airport. Oh, you're taxi man today. Can't they get an Uber? just tell them to get an Uber. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there for today anyway. There's not really, to be honest, at this hour, there's nobody really online. We won't worry about it too much. But anyway, that's me done for not only the day, but the weekend, boys and girls. We'll be back on Monday. Hopefully by Monday, I'll have got a little bit more progress made on. I've got a couple of videos that I want to put out the next couple of days. A couple of videos I want to have a little bit of a talk about enchanting. I've not done an overview of enchanting, which I think is definitely needed. It's the one profession that I'm still missing from the collection, so I'll make sure I definitely get that out to you guys for those that don't have opportunity to catch the streams live. And it might be time to have a little bit of a talk about where we suspect this work order system is going. Now, I know we haven't seen Blizzard's full implementation of it yet, but we can definitely start making some good guesses based on how we see the rest of the professions. But yeah, that's me done for the day, boys and girls. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday. Peace.